Libra, they buried you under silence and waited for you to crumble. But the roots of your soul dug deeper. You were not just tested, you were pressed, shaken, undone, and still, you remained. God gave you the kind of test that strips the noise from your life, the kind that takes your name off everyone's lips, just to see if you'll still pray when no one's clapping. This wasn't a storm. This was a furnace, a sacred trial only the strongest survive. Most would have folded under the weight you carried quietly. But not you. You passed what was designed to break the back of a chosen one. And now, heaven is whispering your name in rooms you haven't even entered yet. Comment below, I survived the hardest test. Say it boldly. Let your spirit testify in public what it endured in private. Stay until the end, Libra, because this isn't just a message, it's your confirmation. A spiritual report card, marked in grace. You passed the hardest test, and what comes next will make the fire worth it. When the wind shifted suddenly, Libra, it didn't announce itself. It didn't come crashing through your windows. It tiptoed into your life. Quiet, subtle, deceptive. There was a day, not long ago, a conversation that suddenly ended. An opportunity that slipped away without warning. A plan that once felt secure turned soft and shapeless overnight. And you tried to make sense of it, didn't you? You asked yourself, did I miss something? Was this my fault? But it wasn't your fault. It was the test arriving. Before it even wore a name, you felt it deep in your chest. A pressure you couldn't explain. A heaviness in your energy. A shift in someone's tone. Something inside of you whispered, be still. Watch everything carefully now. That whisper was not fear. It was your divine protection speaking before the storm even formed. You didn't know it yet, but something dangerous was heading your way. Not a fire to burn your house, but a subtle emotional sabotage, dressed in fake kindness or a blessing with poisoned roots. You may have been one decision away from heartbreak, one reply away from stepping into a trap, one meeting away from losing years of peace. But you paused. Even when everything in you wanted to react, you paused. And in that pause, heaven moved. Because Libra, you have something rare. Spiritual sensitivity. Your soul doesn't just feel the surface, it picks up on things people try to hide. And even when you couldn't explain the reason, you knew something was wrong. That's when the test started. Not with loud chaos, but with the silence that demanded your trust. You trust. You chose not to chase what was fading. You chose not to knock where the door had clearly closed. You chose not to force what wasn't flowing. You didn't know it then, but you passed the first part of the test. The hardest part, the part where most people fail, because they cling, they fight to control, they ignore the warning in their spirit. But you surrendered. Not out of weakness, but because something greater held your hand and said, wait. That was the moment heaven stepped between you and disaster, not with thunder, but with mercy. So now when you look back, at the person who left without explanation, at the offer that never called again, at the strange silence that filled your space, don't mourn it, don't regret it, because that was the test beginning. And your spirit knew how to answer, even before your mind did. You didn't miss anything, Libra, you were protected. And now, the story is about to unfold, why the disaster never happened. Libra, let's sit with this truth for a moment. Something dark was aimed at you. Something was sent to interrupt your journey, to shatter your peace, to confuse your mind. And yet, you're still here. So now the question must be asked. Why didn't it break you? Why didn't the chaos swallow you whole? Because there is something over your life that human hands cannot touch. Your destiny is wrapped in a spiritual fabric that no betrayal can unravel. Libra, there's a reason you felt the fire but didn't burn. You heard the howling of the storm, but your foundation stayed firm. Because not all attacks are allowed to land. Not all weapons formed are allowed to strike. What tried to reach you was stopped midair. It wasn't your strength that blocked it. It was your assignment. The calling on your name is too sacred to be touched by random destruction. You are not walking through this world unguarded. There are divine walls around your purpose, and while others may fall under pressure, you are carried by something eternal. Even when you didn't feel strong, even when your faith wavered, even when you were questioning everything. God still covered you. You see, the disaster didn't happen because it wasn't allowed to happen. Heaven drew a line. A spiritual boundary was spoken into existence long before the trouble arrived, and the storm, that heavy, destructive, silent force, it got close. It hovered. It studied you, but it could not enter because you were marked. Your life carries a spiritual seal that says, not this one, not now, not ever like that. And even though you didn't hear it, there was a voice in the spirit that said, touch everything around them, but not them. Test their patience, shake their emotions, but don't touch their purpose. That's why when the phone went silent, you stayed. When they turned cold, you didn't collapse. When the money ran dry, you still moved with grace. Because you weren't walking alone. There was something divine on both sides of you, blocking every hit, catching every dart, turning attacks into lessons and pain into preparation. Libra, this is what makes you different. Others may fall and not rise. Others may lose everything and not recover. But your roots are not in this world. They are rooted in God's design for your life. The betrayal came, but it didn't destroy your softness. The delay came, but it didn't cancel your future. The heartbreak came, but it didn't change your identity. Because no storm is stronger than the voice that called you chosen. You have to understand, the reason the disaster never touched you isn't because you were lucky. It's because you were shielded, wrapped in grace, guarded by angels, watched by a God who doesn't sleep. And when something tries to enter your life that was never part of your divine script, it is stopped, it is rerouted, it is removed before it can ruin what you were born to become. So next time you feel like you just barely escaped something, or you sense something didn't feel right and then it vanished, know this. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't your imagination. It was heaven keeping a promise over your life. You've been chosen, and the storm was not stronger than the one who chose you. What you didn't know you were saved from. Libra. Some of the most dangerous things in life don't look dangerous at all. They come dressed in promises. They arrive speaking your love language. They show up exactly when you're tired of waiting, and for a moment, they feel like everything you've prayed for. But not every open door leads to light, and not every yes is divine. There was something you wanted, deeply. It made sense in your mind. It aligned with your timeline. It felt like the perfect next step. You told yourself, if I can just have this, I'll be okay again. But the more you reached, the more it slipped away. The more you poured into it, the more it emptied you. And at some point, you were left with only confusion and quiet tears. You didn't understand. You questioned if God had gone silent. You wondered if you were being punished. You replayed conversations, rewrote messages, and revisited old prayers. But now, look closer. That relationship you begged to work would have dimmed your light until you forgot who you were. That job you felt qualified for would have clipped your wings and forced you into boxes your soul could never fit into. That location you wanted to relocate to would have drained your joy, silenced your voice, and buried your creativity under survival. It's hard to see it in the moment, but Libra, you were saved. Saved from something you thought you needed. Saved from the version of life that would have kept you alive, but not made you feel alive. God saw what you couldn't. He saw the text you never would have read, the betrayal you never would have expected, the outcome that would have shattered your timeline and broken your identity. He saw the delay that would have made you bitter, the spiritual distraction that would have pulled you away from your real calling, the slow loss of self that looks like compromise, but is really collapse in disguise. And so, heaven stepped in, not with a loud no, but with a slow fade. A disconnection, a missed call, a door that wouldn't budge, no matter how many times you knocked. At first it felt cruel, like being left in the cold, but it was actually divine mercy, dressed in silence, because you were seconds away from a trap, a mistake that would have cost you years, a cycle that would have kept repeating, a storm that would have looked beautiful, right before it drowned you. Libra, the no you cried over, was actually one of heaven's most protective yeses. Yes to peace. Yes to freedom. Yes to keeping your soul intact. This is why you're still standing. Not because you got everything you asked for, but because God protected you from the very thing you thought would heal you. And now, what once looked like rejection will soon be revealed as rescue. What felt like abandonment was actually redirection. And what seemed like delay was really divine timing, perfectly aligned with your future. You didn't fail. You were filtered. Because where you're going, Libra, you cannot afford to carry what almost destroyed you. The invisible hand that held you. Libra, there's a kind of love you can't see. A kind of protection that never shows up in headlines or makes noise when it moves. But it's real. It's the reason you're still breathing today. Sometimes, the most powerful things in your life are invisible. You didn't see the shift. You didn't feel the angel. You weren't aware of the trap that was avoided. But something was watching you. Closely, gently, faithfully. There's a hand on your life that doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't seek applause. It just moves in silence, keeping you from doors you didn't know were dangerous and leading you into moments you didn't even know you needed. Libra, your story has never been written by chance. It's not a result of randomness or luck. It's been shaped, edited, protected by something divine. Even when you thought nothing was happening, even when the waiting felt endless, even when the pain felt pointless. The author never stopped writing. There were days when it felt like the script went blank, when your prayers echoed back empty, when your plans fell apart, when your energy was too low to dream again. But what you didn't know was that behind the curtain, the ink kept flowing. Not on paper, but on destiny. A person changed their mind at the last second. A door closed because your name wasn't meant to be in that room. An opportunity disappeared, not to punish you, but to protect your peace. That argument you avoided, that was God pulling your voice away from a trap. That accident you narrowly escaped, that was divine timing rerouting your path without your permission. That financial move you felt uneasy about, so you waited. That pause was the Holy Spirit guarding your future. There was a shift in time that you'll never see, a delay that made you restless, but saved you from a disaster 5 steps ahead. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is divine interruption. This is mercy with strategy. This is love that works behind the scenes, unseen, unheard, but unstoppable. Libra, you are not walking alone. Every step has been calculated with care, even the messy ones, even the ones you thought were mistakes. Because even in your confusion, heaven knew what was coming next, and it built a shield around you, not of metal, but of purpose. That's why you're still here, not broken, not bitter, but rising, glowing, breathing with grace, because your calling is not ordinary. And when your calling isn't ordinary, your protection won't be either. The storms that destroy others don't have the clearance to enter your path. And now you must know, everything that didn't happen was God saying, not this one, not today. You were held, not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, silently, by a hand that never let go. Why the storm came at all? Libra, let's ask the question your soul has whispered more than once. If I'm truly protected, why did the storm even come? If I'm chosen, why did I feel like I was breaking apart inside? If God was holding me, why did everything feel so heavy, so silent, so painful? The truth is, storms are not always sent to destroy. Sometimes they are sent to reveal. You see, peace is beautiful, but it rarely reveals the strength of your foundation. It's the pressure, the shaking, the sudden darkness that shows you what's real. The storm came to expose what couldn't come with you into your next season. It came to test the ground beneath your feet, not to punish you, but to prove you. Libra, there were people around you who looked supportive until the winds picked up. There were habits you had carried for too long that only the storm could shake loose. There were thoughts you used to believe about yourself that had to be challenged by force. This test wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. It asked you, would you go back to what was familiar, or would you trust the unknown where God was waiting? It asked you, would you choose comfort over growth? Would you keep shrinking to fit old spaces? Or would you finally break free? Libra, the storm was your proving ground, and though it shook you, it couldn't break you. You were being refined, stripped of the unnecessary, pulled away from false alignments, made clear in your vision. The tears were part of the cleansing. The silence was part of the reset. The delay was part of the alignment. And even though you felt tired, you didn't run back to what once destroyed you. You didn't choose the easy path just to feel temporary safety. You didn't betray your growth just to feel accepted. You may have stood alone, but you stood in truth. You stood with your spirit wide open and your heart still beating with hope. And that, Libra, that is what passed the test, because the storm was watching, waiting to see if you'd fold under pressure, if you'd beg for what abandoned you, if you'd silence your voice to be loved by the wrong people. But you didn't. You held on, even when your hands were trembling. And when the storm realized it couldn't shake your identity, it passed. It had no more permission, because the test had been completed, and your protection remained untouched. This wasn't just about what you survived, it was about who you became during the survival. Now you don't just carry protection, you carry proof that you are strong, that you are chosen, and that storms can only break what isn't rooted. And you, Libra, you're rooted in something heaven refuses to let fall. The destiny that's still ahead. Libra, let's speak plainly now. The reason the storm couldn't take you, the reason it came close but never claimed you, is because your story is far from over. You're not done, you're not finished. And no, you are not late. There is still something waiting on the other side of this test, a future so aligned, so divine, so specifically designed for you, that your former self wouldn't have survived it. It required a stronger version of you, a cleaner heart, a sharper spirit, a quieter mind, and that is who you are becoming. You see, that storm didn't come to delay you. It came to make room. It cleared the clutter. It swept away the distractions. It revealed who and what could no longer come with you. And now the path is clear. The spiritual debris has been swept from your feet. And the next chapter is not random. It's ready. The divine meeting is coming. Someone is going to walk into your life carrying something holy. Not a replacement, but a reflection of the version of you that rose from the fire. There will be a place, one you haven't stepped into yet, that feels more like home than anywhere you've ever been. There will be a financial shift, not just money, but peace, resources, overflow, ease where there used to be struggle, provision that flows from your purpose, not your panic. There will be a softening inside you, a return of joy, a lightness you haven't felt in years. Because now, you're not carrying anything that was never yours. Libra, this next door isn't just a step forward. It's sacred. It's been waiting for the version of you that stood through the storm. The one who didn't betray their growth. The one who stayed when it was easier to leave. The one who listened when God said wait. You'll walk through this next chapter without fear. Not because the world is gentler, but because you are wiser. You now know what you survived. You now remember how heaven held you. You now understand just how protected your life truly is. There is a weight to your name now, a spiritual authority, because the test that breaks most people didn't break you. And that, Libra, is the proof that the destiny still ahead of you is greater than anything you've left behind. The gift inside the survival. Libra, to survive something hard is powerful, but to survive and come out transformed, that's sacred. This test didn't just leave you bruised, it left you blessed. Because the gift wasn't in avoiding the fire, it was in becoming someone new inside it. You didn't just pass through pain, you became someone pain could no longer control. You didn't just make it to the other side, you became the kind of person who understands stillness, who understands waiting, who understands when to act and when to let God speak first. The storm came loud, but it left you quiet, not weak, centered, not empty, clear, not broken, reborn. Libra, the survival gave you eyes, not just physical eyes, but spiritual ones. Eyes that see what's not said. Eyes that read the energy behind words. Eyes that know the difference between an open door and a spiritual trap. And your heart? It's softer now, but also smarter. You don't give it away quickly anymore, because now you understand how sacred it is. Your discernment? It's louder now. You no longer need loud signs to know when something is wrong. You feel it. You trust it. You honor it. Because the storm didn't just come to rattle your world, it came to make you unshakable. This was never punishment. It was preparation. For rooms you're about to walk into, for relationships that will require deeper wisdom, for blessings that need a stronger version of you to hold them well. And now, when that next opportunity comes, when that door opens, when that conversation happens that shifts everything, you won't walk in confused, you won't walk in desperate, you won't walk in trying to prove your worth. You'll walk in grounded. You'll walk in grateful. You'll walk in with a quiet power that cannot be faked. Because Libra, this survival left you with a gift. The kind of gift only storms can give. A soul that knows its worth. A spirit that won't settle. A heart that knows what it took to still be beating. And from now on, you'll no longer shrink just to keep the peace. You'll no longer ignore your intuition to be accepted. You'll no longer doubt yourself just because others don't see clearly. You've been changed. And not just healed, elevated. The gift inside your survival is the version of you that now knows how to rise, even when it's dark, even when it's lonely, even when it's hard. And that version of you, Libra, was always meant to lead, to shine, to carry wisdom wrapped in grace. You were never unprotected. Libra, take a breath. Let this truth settle into your bones. You were seconds away from a disaster that had your name written on it. But heaven tore that script apart before it could ever reach you. You were never alone in that silence. Not once, not even when it felt like no one noticed, not even when your voice felt too small for the world to hear. In those moments when your strength ran low, when your hands trembled but you kept holding on, when your faith grew quiet but you didn't let go, heaven was right there. God didn't just walk beside you, He shielded you from what you saw and what you never even knew was coming. You didn't survive by accident. You didn't stand through it all by chance. You were carried. You were guarded. You were positioned for a future so full of light, it had to be protected in darkness first. Libra, you rise now, not just because you made it through the storm, but because the storm couldn't reach what God had already sealed. You rise not in fear, but in clarity. Knowing what you've passed through, knowing who you've become, knowing what's ahead of you is too divine to be taken lightly. Repeat this softly in your heart, and then speak it aloud until your spirit believes it. I am divinely protected. I walk in purpose. I am no longer afraid. And in the comments below, declare it boldly, my destiny is protected. Let the world hear it. Let the heavens record it. Let your angels echo it back over your life. Because this is not just another chapter. This is your confirmation. If this message spoke to your soul, Libra, if you felt seen, known, or reminded of something deeper, subscribe. Stay with this journey. There is more coming for you, and what's ahead will make everything that tried to break you look small in comparison. You were seconds away from disaster, but now look at you, still standing, still chosen, still protected. This is your reward, this is your rise. And it's only just beginning.